then I'd have to have a diagonal wall on the back wall because the irrigation ditch on the back of the property goes at an angle. If I went to the other side of the property, I measured that this morning. From the property line to the ditch is 9 feet. So if I put setback, I'd have a 4-foot garage, so I can't go back behind the garage. Even when Sarah came over this morning, we looked at it. Well, what if we put it behind the garage, or excuse me, behind the house, but you can't put a garage back there without being on the beach field, and then you would have access to it unless they came across Mr. Nassau's property. So there is only one viable location. 3 lots is where I have a problem now. Does it affect the neighborhood? I don't see where it changes the character or affects the neighborhood or surrounding property in any way. The irrigation ditch actually gives us an additional barrier between Mr. Nassau's property. If he or someone else should decide at a later date to put property or put a building over there, actually I have 4 lots to build on, with the irrigation ditch being there where they would build, still probably close to 16, 18 feet minimum between buildings instead of on a wish in the zoning code of the 20 foot between properties. Snow shed and for fire protection. So then I'm taking back to, I guess we'll just go to Mr. Nassau's letter that he wrote. To whom it may concern, property owner of lot 12, block 8, town of Pitkin is in support of the town of Pitkin issuing a 0-foot setback from the side properties of lot 11. With myself, the current owner of lot 11, block 8 for construction of the property. Chris had plans to be here tonight, but an emergency came up. So then I'll take you to the map, site plan, a smaller site plan. So again, my property is actually lot 9, 10, and 11. Lot 8 off to the far right, if you're looking at the sheet, or lot 12 is not my property. So the proposed garage of an 18 by 30 garage is on a lot 11. Again, the foundation would be a foot off the property line, putting the drip line of the roof on the property. Then at the front of the property, got to believe the measurements are there, and I got to look, see, I think it's 25 feet from the corner of the cabin to the property line. I know when you drive down State Street, go past my place, you think, wow, they've got a really big yard. Half of that yard belongs to the town. Down right away from the road. In fact, there's a clump of rocks out on both sides that marks the property line. So there's not room up in front to put anything there. And then, like I said, the porch, the way that cabin is positioned, the corner porch roof line is 10 feet from the edge of the property line between lots 8 and 9. My original plan on that porch, the front porch and back porch would be a 10-foot porch, but I'd go to an 8-foot porch to make sure I didn't cross over the 10-foot setback. And then next to the cabin, you see the septic tank. When you move back to the back, there's an existing shed back there, and in front of that shed, going past the back steps of the porch, is the leach field. And then on the bottom left of the drawing, you see an existing shed. The front of that, I guess, towards the State Street side of that shed is from the ditch is approximately 5 to 5.5 feet. Good. Can you hear me? Okay. So
Line to ditch.
so from the existing shed, the 12 by 20 shed, the corner of that shed with the ditch is 5.5 feet.
That ditch is on you.
Yes, on my property, at the back of the property.
And moves off.
And-
And then moves off.
But so yes, it goes to the,
Comes through.
Downstream.
yeah, it goes downstream off the property and then runs parallel between the two properties.
Thank you, Mr. Pinalto. Gayla, Ed, Roger, any of you have questions for Sarah or Mr. Pinalto?
Yes,
Go ahead.
okay. All right. It is not customary for zoning board to give zero setbacks. In fact, it's not a slight easement of our, yeah, what we do. So that is a question. I don't think we can actually do a zero setback. The other portion of this is relatively tied into that to some degree. You're encroaching on the town ditch, which I think you're gonna need a lot line agreement with the adjoining property owner and the town of Pitkin because of the town ditch. You're gonna have to have a hold harmless agreement with those same individuals, so anyone working on the town ditch that damages your garage, or if you decide after you build this garage that the water that is in the ditch that's seeping under your garage floor and heaving it and cracking it all up, it's not the town liability to fix that. So I think hold harmless agreement is absolutely essential in this situation. I wanted to talk a little bit about the defensible space between buildings. This, I don't know if Chris realizes that he can't build within 20 feet of your building, which is a whole lot almost. And this has nothing to do with snow or snow falling off buildings. It has to do with defensible space for fire protection. Should your garage catch on fire, I need it 20 feet so we can defend the adjoining properties and buildings. That's what that's all about. Now, all this has to be written up, and I would like to have the attorney chip in on this so that we have a public record. So should Chris ever sell lot 12, joining properties, whatever, that this goes with it, whatever's been done here and the agreement that goes with it. And so I think it needs to be drawn up by a town attorney. Make it, yeah. That's not something that the zoning board does. So first we gotta decide if this meets section 18, number C, which is called variances. Number 2, D, which states, in no case shall any variance from this code be more than a minimum easing of the requirements. I don't think zero setback is a minimum easing of the requirements. So we gotta figure out if you can get around that. Probably another question for the town attorney. That's all I've got.
Thank you, Roger. Gayla or Ed?
But before we move on, Jesse, Mr. Vice Chairman, can I address a couple of those items that Roger brought up?
Go ahead.
Clarification. So the zero setback, I believe it was a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, when Jake Schellenberg asked for zero setback for a building to be set on the property between him and the Silver Plume, and that zero setback was granted. So a zero setback has been done in the past, and I think it's something that's very doable. As far as holding a harmless agreement against the town, I don't have an issue with attorney draw something like that up. The township fire protection, keep in mind that my building would be a minimum of 6.5 feet from the center of the ditch. And if anybody was to build on the other side, I don't believe they can build closer than 6.5 feet. So we're looking at 13 feet between the buildings anyway. When Chris Nasso and I looked at it, he looked at it and he says, you know, I don't see where anybody would build within closer than 20 feet of the property. So he was fully aware of it with 20-foot fire protection. The irrigation ditch itself gives a pretty good break between where you could possibly build anyway.
Thank you, Mr. Pinalto. Mr. Herman or Mrs. Gibb, you have questions or comments, please?
I don't have any questions.
I have a couple of concerns. Besides, I totally understand, and you've done a very good presentation, and your drawing, your site plan is the best I've seen. Thank you for that. Very good job. But I have about three things here. I think it sets a bad precedence. I understand it, but I think it's a bad precedence to be doing 0 lot lines. And garages are nice, but they're not necessary. I mean, nobody likes to go sweep 3 feet of snow off your truck before you get in it. But it's not really a necessary thing. And then this has already been brought up, but I was shut off all of a sudden.
I still hear you, Gayla.
You can hear me?
Yes,
I'm
I can.
loud.
Yeah, you're fine.
I don't know. Okay, I'll keep going. Hello? Okay, I'll use it. You know, you're not always going to own your property. Sadly, things happen. 30 years from now, you know, somebody else may own the property. And the same thing with Chris's. He won't always own that. And there'll be a future. And that could be a conflict. So I didn't know that we could do a 20-foot thing and have it go with the property, but that might be one solution. I don't know if that would cause a problem if Chris ever wanted to sell that property or not. That would be up to him to decide, I guess, but that might be one solution for that. So those are my concerns.
Okay, if I could, the bad precedence, I guess, has already been set because the town has already allowed 0 setbacks, numerous properties.
Which is, I don't want to interrupt, but see, that's kind of my example. Now the next person's going to say, well, you did it for those two. So that's what I meant, you know, already we're trying to bring somebody else's problems, saying you should be able to solve yours the same way.
Then my recommendation would be in the zoning code that we clarify in the future of how much of the setback we were going to allow. Right now, the zoning code says in the variance, it has no specifications of what kind of variance you can. So the zoning code itself is, I guess, unclear when it's set for that precedence. As far as the variance, whether it be Mr. Nasso or even myself, the variance request asks for the current property owner permission, not the future property owner permission.
Right, I was just talking about
So you
buildings down the road being too close.
can't take it into account as to, well, we don't have owners in the future either agreeing to it on my property or even agreeing to it on Mr. Nasso's property. Our code simply says you get a variance, a letter from the neighboring property. So,
Thank you, Gayla and Mr. Pinalto. Before I make any comments, is somebody in the, do we have an audience tonight? I can't see anything.
We do.
Does anybody in the audience have a comment or question, please?
Ramon raised his hand. I'll be your eyes.
Yes, go ahead, Ramon. I can't see you, so I guess it's okay. I assume you're not an alias.
This is Ramon. I want to point out a couple of things. You know, it's one of the problems that Pitkin has because we're so small and population.
I'm not hearing Ramon.
Uh-oh.
I think a month.
Closer to the mic, maybe?
We'll be closer. Unfortunately, right now, we don't have a ditch commission. Or if we did, we have an active, knowledgeable ditch commissioner, which we've had in the past. I probably wouldn't be bringing these up because it would have already been brought up and discussed. But I do have some experience. Maybe some people don't know, but I served 2 4-year terms on the Upper Gunnison.
Excuse me, I hear his voice, but I have no clue what he's saying.
Will you just come stand over near this flat microphone? Because that'll pick up your voice for Jesse and Roger.
Roger, are you hearing it?
Not very well.
He's
He's gonna move where this microphone will pick him up.
Sit down right there.
Probably, yeah, I think you're probably good right there. That's perfect.
Can you hear me now, Jesse? You can see me?
Yes, thank you.
Put the microphone in your mouth. There you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
I served 8 years on the Upper Gunnison River Water Conservancy District. And unfortunately, some of the water law is fading now. That was, the end of my term on that district was 25 years ago. But that's all we ever did is work on within the bounds of Colorado water law. And so what I'm telling you is basically from my recollection and knowledge. And so this will need to be, the town board needs to check this out with the town attorney. But I'll when I finish, I'll suggest how we can get that done. The water ditch that runs through Pitkin, or ditches, because it goes into multiples, are considered, as far as I'm aware, they're considered the same as all of the irrigation ditches that exist in Colorado. The surprising thing about these is that all irrigation ditches have a 25-foot easement on both sides of the ditch for access and maintenance, which means basically a 50-foot easement follows the ditch. And of course, in Pitkin, there's a lot of places that, that 50 or 25-foot easement doesn't exist, but not too many. And certainly this would be another one. The easement is for access and maintenance. And I guarantee you that if a proposal like this, even on your own property, were made to anywhere within the county that an irrigation ditch for ranching exists, the answer would be absolutely no. The ranchers are extremely protective of that ditch, and the law is on their side. This is in Colorado water law. So here's what I'm going to suggest is that if the zoning board wishes to approve this variance, it should be an motion subject to approval by this location by the Board of Trustees as well. Not the variance, but the location. Secondly, I would suggest that the secretary clerk send this proposal along with whatever action is taken to the town attorney tomorrow and ask him to look into the aspect of a ditch and what's required and what the town, just because there's an easement doesn't mean that it has to be enforced. So I think that the town has a lot of leeway in basically granting the same access here that the Board of Trustees does. But I want to make it clear that it's going to require both. The Board of Trustees can only grant a variance from the setback required in the property. But that doesn't mean that the town board has to, acknowledge that setback variance and may require more. So, that's I think what needs to be considered on this and how it can be done if Sarah sends, could even be by email, sends this information to the town attorney tomorrow. I would think he can have a response for the Board of Trustees by next Monday's meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reed.
One question I have is last month, or the month before, variance was granted for the Pitkin Hotel.
I'm not hearing you, Mr. Pinalto.
Either are we.
Hot seat.
So a month ago, a variance was granted for the Pitkin Hotel to put the porch out in front of town property, of which the ditch runs under that porch. And none of this was brought up for the variance for the Pitkin Hotel. I was bringing it up tonight. I'd just like to point that out for the record.
I did bring it up because it already exists. Only the roof is new. The porch is already there.
No, the porch is completely gone. The porch and roof has been
It will be
replaced.
replaced though.
It's gone because it's going to be replaced. But it's in existence for 45 years that I'm over.
Okay, thank you for everybody for your inputs.
You have to come up here for a public comment.
Okay, I didn't see somebody else.
Yeah, so this is Tom, and I would like 5 seconds to see the diagram.
And I forgot
There
mine.
it is. Here, grab mine.
Not all this stuff is out there open to the public. Well, I missed it.
I wouldn't
Somehow I missed it.
print, so I was gonna bring it on my computer and then I forgot my computer.
So my question is regarding this ditch that runs across in front of the shed that you built, had it hauled in and then put a addition on. Is that underground?
Is the ditch underground? No.
So we walk across the ditch to get to the shed back here you built.
From the cabin, yes. There's that bridge right back there you walked across.
Okay. Well, so my comment is, so you brought up Jake Schellenberg's, and I will tell you that I was not in favor of that at all because was my opinion that just opens the gate to a whole lot more of this stuff. And eventually we're going to wind up at a point where any variance request made along these lines, there'll be no way to say no. So I will say on behalf of Mr. Schellenberg, only redeeming value to this board having given him a variance, which I found way off the reservation as far as a minimal easing of requirements. So that was totally outside how I read the zoning code. Is that A, the building is movable, and B, it's made out of steel. It's non-combustible. Not a container?
No, it's just like a single slope shed.
It's like what?
A single slope porch shed.
It's a wood frame structure?
Perfect.
Okay, well, never mind. So that's,
On
we can't go check that right now.
what's on Breezy's.
But what?
It's right out the window, guys.
Yeah.
No, not this one, the one down there.
The one at the lodge,
No, I'm not talking about the one on the lodge.
the big container thing.
No, I'm talking about the one right on the other side of this.
You know, he was talking about the one.
No, it's not, that lodge down there, just, that one blew me away. He brought in a container and set it and then got a variance after the fact, and I was not in favor of that.
That's not the one we referred.
Okay, so we're on different odds. But anyway, here's the deal. You do have a couple of extenuating circumstances with your ditch, but you do have a 9,000 square feet lot. And I am familiar with the fact that you cannot always get what you want, where you want it on a 9,000 square foot lot. And so I'm going to fall back on what your zoning code says in whatever section 13 or 16D, where it says at the very most, it will be no more than an easing of requirements. And this is total obliteration of that sentence and that requirement. So
It's 18D.
18D, is
Yeah.
that what it is?
Yeah.
And that's immediately where my brain went when this came up, except for the fact that you had already brought in a shed and parked it on the other side of that ditch back there. And my thought was, well, he could have alleyed in off the back street to a garage there. Because you're 5 feet off of the alley. And you could have come in off there.
I could have put in a 12-foot by 21-foot garage.
Well, you've got 24 feet of width there on the back side.
Access, but it only could come in 10 feet because of that tree that's there.
So
Unless you start cutting down big Douglas fir trees.
yeah. So anyway, like I said, you can't always get everything you want on the lot that you've got because, well, you don't want to cut down trees, and this is where I want it. This is where I'd like it to go. And so, you know, you say, well, we've already got one, and as soon as we go to 2, there will not be another variance request that comes down the pipe. Someone won't refer back to the last 2 that we did and say, well, why not me? So I'm opposed to this on that principle. And that's the end of what I have to say.
Thank you, Tom. Not seeing the audience. Does anybody else have their hand up?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but I don't know what happened. I don't see anybody.
Jess, this is Jim. I'm
Jim.
driving. So I apologize. Do you need to see me?
Which Jim is this?
Fish, I'm sorry, Jim Fisher.
Jim Fisher, you're gonna have to get into the mic better, please.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Well, now I've got the wife working on my screen because It popped up black and iPhone.
See,
Well, there I see
is there
Jim
anything?
Fisher.
Okay, I'm gonna try and do this while I'm driving, so I apologize. Can you
Pull
hear me?
over and park.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I just had a statement, really. It would seem to me that if an agreement was made between two landowners, that they could do that because this doesn't involve the city. Is that correct?
Could be disputable. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, my line of thinking is if Chris Nasso's property's next to him and he allows an easement of some sort through there, that would be allowed. That's really the only comment I had.
Thank you, Jim.
Yep.
Anybody else, Sarah?
That seems to be it as far as public comments.
Okay, thank you. All right, my comments. I am quite concerned that we're doing what we can do to stop one of our residents making improvement on his property rather than what can we do to help him. And I'd like to point out how many square feet of his property is to the benefit of the town of Pitkin. And that's that irrigation ditch. And we can say there's an easement, there's so many feet for maintenance. We say all of these things. But I don't know the validity of the Water Commission for the state of Colorado, for the county of Gunnison, or the town of Pitkin. I know many a times in our ordinances, it says because of narrowness of a property or a mountain or the creek, those various things, we are allowed to make a variance. Having said that, if you don't think that that ditch that goes across the backside of lot 8, 9, 10, and 11 is an invasion almost of private property, which the Pinaltos have never complained about. I don't know if the previous owner ever complained about it, but I think the city ought to be appreciative of that ditch running across that property. And it's all about whose bull's getting gored here. And we have made not just one, not just two, not just three, 0 setbacks in recent years and in decades back. So I would not be able to get out of a car if I put it in an 8-foot wide garage. So having heard everybody's comments from Roger, Gayla, Ramon, Tom, Mr. Pinalto, I would like to incorporate this comment that Roger made of some kind of an easement about holding the town harmless on account of the ditch. I would like to see the easement of 25 feet that Mr. Ramon mentioned of a ditch for maintenance. I don't know where that might be. I am in agreement with Mr. Reed to propose with an approval to the Board of Trustees and the attorney weighing in to make sure we word it properly. But I would totally like to see this variance request approved with the Board of Trustees going along. In other words, the Zoning Board of Adjustments making a recommendation to the Board of Trustees in behalf of Mr. Pinalto to allow the 0 setback on his garage. Now, how we put this all into a motion or in proper verbiage, I don't have that down pat. So having said that, Sarah, as vice chair, I'd like to make a motion that we forward this variance application to the Board of Trustees with the holding the town harmless, much similar to what the Taylors made for the town of Pitkin on their front porch. And I would like to see that the approval of Board of Trustees with the attorney's blessing. Pitkin is very unique. And we all have some challenge of some sort somewhere. And if we want to be totally negative, there might not be very many buildings ever built or homes or OWTSs or anything in Pitkin again. That sounds terrible, devil's advocate or something, but that's how I feel about it, that we all are probably going to need some help from the town zoning board and trustees sometime in our life in Pitkin. Can you make any kind of motion on that, Sarah?
I think so. So what I have, and please correct me if it does not capture your intent. Motion to forward the variance application to the Board of Trustees with recommendation for development of a hold harmless agreement between the property owner and the town, and recommendation for approval of the variance pending attorney review.
That sounds wonderful. Thank you, Sarah. I would entertain a second if anybody agrees with it.
I'll second
Do I get to ask a question?
Yeah.
Well, yes, after the second, yes, there's a plans for discussion, Gayla. Roger just seconded it, so go ahead, Gayla.
Well, you got it moved and seconded. I was this 18D
Yes.
no
The minimum
variance,
easement
minimum easing.
of the requirements.
Can you not get this garage any further from the property line, Mr. Pinalto? Can you do 5 foot?
If it was 5 foot more, I'd be on the back porch. And I think Sarah can confirm the back end is. The back
5 foot
end-
would make his garage 13 feet wide.
Yeah, if I reduce the garage down to 13 feet, that I couldn't open the doors on and the vehicle would pull in. I can't move it towards the house anymore because from the corner porch to the edge of where I have it marked currently is 3.5 feet. Our original intent was to try to put in a 22-foot wide garage in there.
Mr. Herman, I see you waving.
Yeah, Ed, I'd like to ask you a question. To move forward for approval on this, would you be willing to modify your plans to put fireproof siding and maybe put a culvert in the ditch to satisfy the town's concerns about potential liability in the future?
The ditch is not on my property. The ditch is on Nassau's property. So I think you're asking the wrong person to put a culvert in the ditch. As far as fireproof, if the building was ever built within 20 feet, then yeah, I consider putting fireproof on that side of the building. But with the ditch there currently, there's a minimum of 15 feet.
It's not really that.
The property owner being 10 feet off the property.
Gayla, what'd you say?
I, well, he says 15, 20 feet, 15 feet or so. My understanding of the distances were a lot closer to that on the map. I didn't get to go trump it, but you know, on the map, it looked like it was a lot closer than that many feet. Roger's waving.
Go ahead, Roger.
Well, we can't hear you, Roger. Are you muted? Roger, are you muted?
My picture says he is muted.
Bingo, that should do it.
All right,
Got
now
me.
go
Okay.
back and start over.
Yeah, I forgot further discussion here. I'd like to ask, Chris seems to be very amicable about what is built on his lot 12. Ask Ed, or I'll ask him if he's considered buying half of that lot, which would give him the 10-foot setback if he owned that. Give him, of course, the rest of the town ditch. It's not on his property that goes out to State Street. But it's worthless to Chris. It only complicates his situation.
It's a good solution.
Give him
I'm
half,
afraid that
or buy
Chris's
the whole lot.
leach field would be jeopardized by taking anything off the side of that property. But way back when Chris put in his leach field and had to get the easements and everything to go under Courts Lane. I don't know where his leach field is, but it's towards that property line closer to Mr. Pianalto.
Okay,
I don't know, Roger.
might not work,
How's
but
that?
it shouldn't be too close to that ditch.
No, how's that possible close to a ditch?
So,
So, just, Chris and I did have discussions about selling half of the lot on that side. One of the issues, well, first of all, Chris said he's really not willing to sell a half a lot because it gives him 4.5 lots. Makes, if he ever decides to sell, makes it a little bit more difficult. But the real issue comes in that if I were to buy a half a lot, you would purchase the lot from the top of the property down to Courts Lane, the alley. Septic system is on a 10-foot variance from that property line. So I would own 2.5 feet of the septic system.
Yeah, not good.
That's where, we discussed it. So then it doesn't. Okay, well, how can the septic system be there when the ditch is there? Keep in mind that ditch comes down and it turns across my back property. So where his septic system is not near the ditch. But yes, that was looked at, that was discussed. Chris said he's really not willing to sell it at this point.
All right, we have a motion and a second on the table. At this point, I'm gonna call for a vote, one person at a time. Looking at the screen here, Mr. Herman, what is your vote, please?
Vote to approve.
Pardon me?
I vote to approve.
Okay. Gayla Gibb,
Yes, I vote to send it to the trustees. I approve this.
Roger Lowell,
yes,
Jess Garrettson, yes. Okay, so be it. As Sarah read our motion, we will send it to the trustees and pray for them so that they are very wise and know exactly how to put the seal on this variance request. Thank you. And Mr. Chairman, would you take over again, please?
Thank you for everyone for the good discussion. Join the club. Maybe.
No, mine's just
There we go.
dead.
Let me have that one. No, the stand. Okay. That away. Moving on to 5th item. Discuss possible action on written progress report for building permits reaching 2 years without completion for property at 3 River Street and 507 River Street. So I believe those were emailed out from the town clerk to everyone. Sarah, were these posted out on the,
No, this is just administrative, so I did not.
okay,
put it.
would it be wise to read them or not?
Sure. You can read.
Okay, so the first one is on 507 River Street from Phil Figueredo. I feel for him because I know how my name gets butchered. So regarding the house construction is complete. Last February, I met with the state electrical inspector for a final inspection, and he gave me a couple of small items to address. I've already taken care of those items and will meet with him again next time we are in town to have him sign off and close out the electrical permit. At that time, we'll also meet with the Pitkin building inspector in an effort to get a final occupancy permit. Regarding the garage, planning on breaking ground this summer on the garage portion of our project. Our plan is to have it completed summer of 2025. Please let me know if you have any questions or concerns. Phil and Heather Figueredo. Thank you.
That's Portuguese.
Oh, okay. Thought it was Italian. I didn't know. So I guess let's address that one first. Bill has sent a letter letting the zoning board of adjustments know where he stands on the permit.
Roger.
See, Roger has his hand up.
Yes. You guys are misinterpreting the 2-year thing. The 2-year thing, it's addressed in the zoning code, is set up for what the zoning board does, not building permits. It says we are not the building department. No way, shape, or form. We do not give permission to anyone to build in the town of Pitkin. This is Tom's jurisdiction and the town council if necessary. It does not come to the ball. We're not the billing process. Consequently, when this 2-year thing was added and has remained in zoning ordinance for all these years, it's because it applies to variances. If we issue a variance for Ed Bonaldo to 0 clearance and he doesn't get after it in 2 years, we're going to say your variance died. Or we'll say we're going to renew it. It doesn't even say that they expire. But it says you're to give us a report on your variance. This has nothing to do with building permits, nothing whatsoever, other than the variance issued by the zoning board. And I don't know how that confusion got, but now we are playing with Tom's business and saying that building permits expire. No, never intended for that.
So Roger, I'm just gonna go to section 17 under building permits of the current zoning code. On
Yes,
section 18,
yes,
and it's under building permits. If a building project cannot be completed within 2 years, the property owner must provide written progress reports yearly or more often at the discretion of the Board of Zoning Adjustment to the Board of Zoning Adjustment with an estimated time to complete the construction. And I believe Phil's letter is just giving us an update of what his projection is to the time of completion.
These building projects are projects that have been given variances. You misinterpret this whole thing. It says, we do not handle building permits. You're mixing up the zoning board with Tom's job as building inspector. This has nothing to do with Tom's job or other building. Normal building permits are handled by the building department. So you're going
You don't-
after people that are building, legally building. We're going and we're wanting reports on people that have variances to make sure that they follow through with their variance. That is our liability and responsibility. That is all we're supposed to do.
Where does it say that, Roger, please?
Well, maybe it's just understood.
Okay,
Where does it say that we have anything to do with building permits?
when you read
Section
H,
17H.
Well, it doesn't say, it says building projects cannot be completed in 2 years. Doesn't say, the permit expires. It doesn't say anything
No.
else.
no, it doesn't say it
Didn't say
expired.
anything about it expiring.
No, it doesn't expire. And it doesn't say that we have to require a 2-year report on every building permit either.
But we
just
can
assume-
require
You're
it
just
more
assuming that
often.
it says that. But no, the zoning board does not handle the building inspector's job. I'm gonna stick with that.
Right.
And if
Well-
you're gonna push that, I'm gonna push back.
Okay,
Nowhere in zoning are we supposed to do the building inspector's job.
Mr. Chairman, how this
Yes,
has
sir.
transpired, we have been scolded at the zoning board by not supporting ordinances of 2022 code, building code, zoning code. And when we read that, again, it's a quote, and it doesn't say anything about it pertaining to a building project that had a variance. And it's not an ugly, naughty thing. If you can remember a year or so ago when Phil Daniel answered our question to him, is a very simple, straightforward letter, very informative, just like this one from Mr. Phil, and then also from 3 River Street. This is not a mountain. It's just a simple little update, which can help the building inspector, keeps our nose clean. And if Roger and Jess want to get clarification from the attorney on this paragraph H, I think be very fitting. Roger has a lot more experience with what's transpired in the past, but evidently what was taking place in the past about a variance being allowed 2 years to get started has got dropped somewhere. So if that is the true case, then I think our attorney needs to advise us to put that in, that it's a variance that was granted rather than a building permit.
So what I'd like to ask is, I guess, as chairman of the board now, is Sarah, if you could send it, I guess, to our town attorney for clarification on section 17, building permits, section H, to see if the zoning board is within reason of receiving a letter from someone that has a building permit that's coming upon within the 2 years, not being completed.
I would second that, Mr. Chairman.
Well, I don't see how we can require anything from a building permit that we don't issue. We don't issue building permits. The zoning board has nothing to do with them whatsoever.
Why do we have 2 signatures?
So,
We issue variances. This applies to what we do, issue variances.
okay,
I
so.
don't know how
I'm
to
gonna-
get that
I'm gonna-
across. You want to act like a building department, fine. Get town board of trustees working on that. Reassign us to, other jobs, whatever. I don't, but that's not the general purpose of what this is written for.
I'm so
Okay,
happy for Roger's input.
I'm gonna pull this back in. I've made a request for Sarah to send it to the town attorney to give us some direction on it. When we receive that direction back, then we'll know how we proceed with it in the future and where we stand on it. I do believe that since two property owners at least sent us an update on their construction, I think it's worthwhile that we at least look at it and acknowledge that they sent that to us. And really, all it says in the building or in the building permits or in the zoning code under the building permits is they give us an update. And if we're good with the update, they keep working on it. We're not telling them they can't work on it or that their permit is expired. So I guess what I'm gonna ask is, since we've looked at Phil's, if the board is acceptable with where he's at on his construction, what his projection is.
Mr. Chairman, I am very acceptable as to Phil's comments on his progress report, and I'd like to hear Molly's report, please.
Let's finish with Phil's. Is the board,
Yeah, it's nice. Nice, yeah.
Ed, Herman,
Yes.
and Roger? At least getting an update from Phil. Are you acceptable?
Yes,
And I agree. I think it's a very good update. So our building inspector will mark that it's at the 2 years and they can keep working on it like they want to progress. Okay. So then the second one is 3 River Street for Molly Gibb. To the Pitkin Zoning Board, please accept this letter of report regarding the progress of construction remodeling for my residents at 3 River Street in Pitkin. Currently, this project has passed the rough-in electrical inspection pending completion of the trim inspection once interior is completed. A new well and septic have been installed on the property, engineered with Williams Engineering. The plumbing to connect the new well and septic is still pending completion. The project included a new addition to the cabin. This addition is still under construction, but will be complete when insulation is installed and the finished ceiling, floor, and walls are in place. The main pre-existing portion of the cabin is still pending completion of insulation, finished walls and flooring, cabinetry, countertops, installation of appliances and fixtures. Expected completion date of this project is tentatively set for the end of June of 2024. Please contact me with any questions or concerns. Thank you, Molly Gibb.
She's real optimistic.
I bet she is optimistic.
Let's tell you every appliance they ordered. Backward.
Really?
Well, that's after the orders got canceled several times. It has been a nightmare.
This first-
Wow. So the only comments I'm gonna say on Molly's, is I think she's given us a good explanation of what the plan of action is, when she hopes to be done with it, even though her parents think she's being a little aggressive. And that's understandable. So that's my thoughts on it.
I move we accept
Anybody-
it, and give her praises.
Anybody else want to say anything differently? All right, I'll take that as a no. So Mr. Building Inspector, that's another one that you can mark as 2 years, and she's continuing on, and we wish her the best of luck on it. All right, so the next item of agenda is more working on the zoning code. However, we do want to get to some of the old business, and quite honestly, I'd like to hold this meeting to where we're done by 9 o'clock, if that's agreeable.
And I thought we had decided to have a work session for that stuff.
The work session, the work session that the Board of Trustees and the mayor requested was to review the different
Yeah,
building codes. So I absolutely want to do that. there might be, I guess where I'd like to go with it is, so we don't lose it on the radar, is review the fence permit form. We drafted that form way back in December. And then it was asked that we would add to that fence permit a phrase of use the back of this form for a site plan drawing. So there, that was the one that we proposed back in December. And then Sarah, I believe, put together another version.
Yeah, I just, when you're doing that, it looks similar to the building permit, and I thought the formatting looked a little, cleaner.
Can Sarah repeat that, please?
Sure, I just said that I redid the formatting, with, it should have the same information,
Yes.
just with slightly different formatting that was more consistent with the building permit and made just look a little cleaner.
So
Thank you.
question on the building permit. Because I thought we took the building permit, and just marked up the building, put fence permit. So has it been updated to some similar to this?
Has the building permit been
Yes.
updated?
Yeah.
Not the
Okay.
primary building. The only thing that has been changed on the primary building permit for all structures is there's a line on there that says this permit expires 2 years after issuance, and that's been removed. That wasn't supported by the
In the
zoning
code.
code. So that's been removed, but other than that,
Okay.
it's the same. And then for that, I just tried to follow the formatting of the building permit for the fence.
Okay.
So that's what I used as the example.
And that, oh, that's fine, because I thought way back when I worked on this, I pulled up the building permit and modified it.
I think probably it has the same information.
Yeah.
It's not the information. The information should be the same.
It
It's
is the
just
same.
Formatting,
So
the outline and all that
Yeah.
stuff.
So I'm gonna add my 2 cents worth on it, and anybody else can too. I like what Sarah did on this. Or when I saw it, that wow, it looks really nice. It's got all the information that we need for the fence permit. So that's just my comments.
Mr. Chairman, Jess would like to comment too, please.
All right, ahead, Justin.
I have looked at both of them, and yes, I think we're covering all the bases. The one on Sarah, I did not find a blank that enters the permit fee. And the other thing that I would like to see would be a second line for a zoning board member. If we're going to require 2 signatures, I would like 2 lines.
No, I didn't. No, I could add that.
Yeah.
I could not hear Sarah.
Okay, no, we were looking, I was showing the form to Sarah, and she thought she had put the permit fee on there. It's not, so she said she could add that on the form that she created, which I think
Okay.
that's very valuable to have that on there.
Yeah, it should have been. That was.
Yeah, and that's fine. We're all
What
human.
about a second signature line for a zoning board member, please?
Okay, on that form, on the left side is a signature for the zoning board member, and then on the right side.
Oh,
is a
guilty as
zoning board member.
charged.
Okay.
Sorry, I was looking underneath the other one and, sorry.
There you
Yes.
go.
Thank you,
Good.
Sarah.
Yes.
All right, Roger, you got any input on the fence permit application form?
Well, I question the validity of having zoning board members sign these things. And it's because zoning board is a committee. And any one member does not represent the committee. So I don't know what their signature is valued on any form. Other than, you know, if you want to say the chairman of the zoning board should sign this, designate someone that has some accountability to sign it. But, you know, just a zoning board member signing it, I don't get it. I'm not sure I would even want to sign one of these things. without seeing an awful lot more documentation than we usually get when they ask you to sign on the thing. So I think it's just a liability on the zoning board members that we don't need. Whoever's going to issue this permit, which I'm assuming is the building department, that's their responsibility. Lot lines, everything that's required, setbacks, whatever else. If there's variances, you know, the person putting this up should stipulate what the variance and setback or whatever the situation is. I don't think the zoning has a whole lot to do with it, and that's just my opinion.
I would like to voice opinion
Right.
too, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Jesse.
I believe this is a CYA for our building inspector to reinforce his calls. And also, I'm not in favor of a one-man board on anything. And when we put all the load on one person, I think we're not being just for that person, no matter who's holding the position. And I know before I look at these things or sign one of them, I want to know, are the setbacks met? And I prefer a site visit. Sometimes it's not always possible, but Tom does a fantastic job of explaining it to us if it's not able to do a on-site visit. And this ex parte thing bugs me tremendously because I think in order to make a determination, we need to have site visits. That's my comments. Thank you.
Okay.
Can I add
Go ahead,
some?
David.
It was my understanding that with building issues, that the zoning member signatures are just to verify with other eyes that no zoning requirements have been neglected, that zoning is okay with the building, whatever is being built. They're not approving or disapproving, they're verifying.
So if I can add something to what all that's been said, the fence permit application is derived from the building permit application. I think everybody will agree on that, that this is specifically for fence. So I have to refer back to section 17 under building permits again. And on section 17D, it says all applications for building permits must be reviewed by 2 members of the Board of Zoning Adjustments for conformance to this code prior to the issuance of the building permit.
Right.
So the way I interpret that is 2 zoning board members of adjustments will say, yes, we're conforming to the code versus setbacks and so forth. So unless we change all of section 17 in the zoning code, I think that section of the zoning code is pretty clear on why 2 zoning board members sign a building permit or now a fence permit.
I think that's what I said, but different words.
Yeah,
I think
I agree.
I just read it right out of the zoning.
Okay.
All right, so I guess any other discussion on it?
Do you need a motion to accept Sarah's proposal with that
There's
one
no further,
adjustment?
if there's no further discussion, then we'll ask for a motion. I guess we'll call it Sarah's draft.
Revision? Mr.
Revision.
Chairman, I so move, please.
Jesse makes the motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Gayla seconds. All in favor say yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
All opposed, no. All right, so that carries. I'm trying to jot down notes here. Gotta write notes because I know I won't remember.
Absolutely. No kidding.
All right, so with that, 8:25. I think with that, the remainder of the items for the zoning code proposal revisions, and there's a number on the second page of the agenda. Given the time that we're at, and I do believe a number of these points, I think would be great to discuss with the Board of Trustees in a workshop. So I would ask for a motion to, I just forgot the word. No? Yeah, almost. To table these remainder items of the zoning code until either the work session, hopefully at the next Board of Trustees meeting, we can get a work session set up.
Mr.
Or
Chairman,
maybe
I
the-
so move.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Oh, everybody's jumping in on that. Okay, Jesse moves. There's a word for it and I can't. It's not postpone.
Table.
Table.
Jeez, get tired.
Yeah. Period.
And we had Ed or Roger's gonna second.
It got in there
Who
first.
got in first? Sure, Ed H, second. All right, very good. So then under old business, discuss some possible actions on recommendation of Board of Trustees for the follow-up letter regarding building permits beyond the 2-year time frame. So we discussed this at a previous meeting. I think Gayla had asked if she could write a different letter or modify a letter. So you should have in front of you 2 different versions. I think we can do this one of 2 ways. I'm just going to reiterate when I talked to the mayor about these letters going out, what he had asked for. And he had said that he would like the letters to look forward, not backwards. So we're not going to accuse anybody of anything. We're only going to look forward so the property owners know, should they wish to proceed with their construction, what they need to do, and that basically that is get a current building permit. So with that being said, if everybody's looked at both versions, Gayla's version in bold, and then the other one we looked at before, I guess I'm just gonna ask for the opinions. Here's my thought. Eddie did ask that whatever letter we decide upon, that we send it to at least him and to the Board of Trustees to make sure that the Board of Trustees and the mayor is okay with it before we send it out. So I see it as we can either send one or the other or both. And say, Mr. Mayor, which one, is there one you'd prefer or not? And I'm okay with however that goes. So
Mr.
what are your
Chairman,
thoughts?
moving on. Jess would like to make a motion to send both of these letters, both formats, to the Board of Trustees and let them, we have no entrance to our attorney. So let the trustees and mayor that have the right to contact our attorney, have them view these and see which one he likes. I know, I especially know in Gayla's latest copy here, I know he did not like the word apologize, and it's not in Gayla's second recommendation. So if the trustees want to make a letter out of the 2 and the attorney agrees with it, get her done, get this book closed.
Okay, so Jesse's making a motion to forward both letters to the mayor and Board of Trustees. You have a
Yes.
second on that?
I'll second that.
All right, so Jesse's moved, Ed Herman has seconded. To pass both these letters on the Board of Trustees and the mayor. Now, I guess we can leave it to the mayor to decide if needs to go to the Board of Trustees.
Yeah, I think we should leave it to the mayor.
That's what
I don't think it needs to go to a whole board.
I'm fine with it going to the mayor to determine if he feels like he can make a decision on it, needs to go to the Board of Trustees. So does that need to change the motion or not, sir?
Want to change the motion?
I prefer the trustees and attorney are involved and don't put one load on the mayor by himself.
Okay, I'm just gonna make a quick comment here, if you don't mind. I find it unlikely that the town is gonna want to pay the attorney to look at these letters. That's all I'm gonna say.
I'm gonna leave it with the mayor to decide if he feels like it should go to the town attorney. And that, I mean, that's totally, I guess, up to him. So Jesse, do you want to change your motion or do you want to leave it as stated?
I'm game with what you just said, but my motion dies if there's not a second. So yeah,
But
go
Ed seconded.
forward.
Ed Herman seconded the motion the way you stated it the first time.
Did you?
Okay, so you're gonna say, send it to the mayor at his discretion how to deal with it. Is that what you're saying?
If that's what you want your motion to be.
Yes. If that lines up with the rest of our panel.
Well, make your motion, and then if Ed wants to second it, we'll second it, and then we'll vote on it.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we send both drafts to the Mayor Bulch of Pitkin, Colorado, and at his discretion, he can poll his trustee board and or attorney, but it's his call. Thank you.
Ed Herman, I'll second that second motion.
Okay. So we're gonna say send to mayor. All right, so we've got a motion and a second to send both letters to the mayor. Let him determine if it needs to go to the Board of Trustees or the town attorney. And do I have all in favor of that motion and second? Please say yes or aye.
Yes.
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 Yes,
All opposed, say no.
Nobody left.
There's nobody left. Okay, so we will send those two letters on to Eddie. And then the last item is just looking at the building permit spreadsheet. I believe the last update made on it was 4/28.
Can I add something?
You can.
Okay, as far as the OWTS goes,
Uh-huh.
I make my report to the Board of Trustees, and I asked the mayor about that because I don't care to write up 2 reports, and he said that you can get your report from the board,
I totally agree.
because you'll get it next week.
I agree. I agree.
Okay,
And what I've tried to do with it is, let me clarify, at least for this tracking, the only time I was looking for OWTS is if there was a building permit that was issued that required OWTS, and I pull it off your report update. Okay. So,
on the same page with that.
yeah, no, that's fine. I agree with that. There's a couple of things. I want to grab Tom, but before he's talking with Ramon. So I'm just going to go back to. I want to go to Molly's and to Figurados. Figuritos.
You'll get it.
So it's marked on here as yellow. Everybody's in agreement that I marked that as still in progress, and we received a report from them. Everybody's okay with that? Because I don't want to change anything on here unless board's in agreement. And then as far as any other new permits,
So you'll get to see those on Thursday. They'll be coming into the trustees' package.
perfect.
And there may be one more added. It's time.
And you'll have the address and the name on it, so I know. Perfect. That, I think that makes it a lot easier just for everybody.
So did Tom have another permit? I couldn't hear Tom. Did he have another?
He'll have them next week.
He'll,
Awesome.
any of the updates Tom will put in his reports for the Board of Trustees. Brain dead there for a minute. And I think everything else on there is still in progress. Anyway. So that's gonna start making this just a little easier. Much easier.
Yeah, Eddie really likes that.
So. All right, so we okay with the last bullet item on old business? If everybody is okay, I would look for a motion to adjourn.
This is Gayla. I move that we adjourn.
That was quick. Do I have a second?
Second.
Ed Herman seconds. All in favor say yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yes. All
yes.
opposed, say no.
We all
Very good. So we ended at 8:46.
want to go 9-9.
Oh. Thank you for everybody's participation.
You did a good job. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Okay, I don't